Our story begins as we see Thors, the majestic warrior, lying on his back. He opens his eyes and sees Helga holding a small child in her hands, calling out to him. Then the scene shifts to the year 987 AD, and we see Thors on a Viking ship, and we see him in an epic battle with his enemies, using his sword skillfully, alongside his ally Thorkel, who helps him in the fight. The important thing is that Thors assigns Thorkel to counter Floki's attacks, while Thors will try to slow their advance. But Thors gets hit by an arrow in his shoulder, and a warrior knocks him into the sea. However, Thors kills him and survives drowning. After reaching shore safely, he sees from afar all the ships burning. The scene shifts again, and we see a young boy named Thorfinn, Thor's son, working on a farm in the morning. At night, he sits with his uncle, the explorer Leif Erikson. In the morning, it's clear that he is naive from the way he interacts with other children, as he tells them a story about a mythical creature guarding the sea called Hormungand, whom he defeated and discovered the lost land of Vinland, full of green meadows and with a warmer climate than Greenland, where livestock gather, and that the native people of Vinland became friends with them. After that, Thors tells the children to return to their homes, and we see Ylva entering the house carrying 2 lambs that couldn't the cold, and she goes to sleep next to Thorfinn. The next day, we see Ylva helping her father with roof work, removing snow, but she slips and falls beside the house. Then she starts removing snow from the ground until she finds a dead slave frozen by the cold, buried under the snow next to their house. At that moment, Thors takes the runaway slave who escaped from his master's house and brings him inside to warm him from the cold. The scene then shifts to Leif and Thorfinn, where Thorfinn asks him why they live in Iceland. Leif answers that their ancestors lived in Norway until a tyrant king named Harald came, conquered Norway, destroyed it, and gave its people a choice: obey him or leave their land to escape his tyranny. So they went to live in Iceland. But Thorfinn doesn't believe that his ancestors were cowards who gave up their land, so he runs to his father to confirm. We return to the frozen slave, and we see him waking from his coma as if returning from death. Thors asks him where he's from and how he got here. The slave answers that he came from the other side of the mountain and asks Thors if he will return him to Halfdan's house, clearly not wanting to go back due to mistreatment. Then a man from the village comes and informs them that Halfdan has arrived at their port with his men, and he's the only one who can stand against them. They are searching for a runaway slave and have tracked his steps to this place. It seems Leif might try to negotiate with them to avoid a war. Later, one of Halfdan's soldiers threatens a villager, but Halfdan strikes him with an iron chain and disfigures his face for breaking the rules. Then he asks about the runaway slave. Halfdan enters Thor's house and tells him to hand over the slave, but Thors asks how much he paid for him. He says 2 sheep. Thors offers 3 sheep to buy him, but Halfdan refuses until Thors raises the offer to 8 sheep, and he finally agrees. Thus, Thors saves the slave from torture. But after Halfdan leaves, they discover the slave has died. Ylva is upset about the 8 sheep her father paid. Then Thorfinn asks his father again about Norway, and Thors confirms they fled to Iceland. And thus, the first episode of the anime ends. The scene moves to Saturday in Northumbria, northern England, at a Viking base. We see a bloody raid by the English on a peaceful Danish village, killing men, women, and children mercilessly. Then we return to Iceland, where children are playing with wooden swords. Thorfinn and another boy pretend to be dead and talk about Valhalla, saying only brave warriors enter it. Thorfinn wonders if his mother and sister will go to heaven. Later, Leif prepares his ship to travel to Norway for trade. Suddenly, a warship arrives at their port. The soldiers appear experienced and organized, not amateurs. They ask for Thors. These are the Vikings, the strongest army in the north, so powerful that even the king of Finland cannot collect taxes from them. Thors meets their leader Floki, who greets him and reminds him of their last meeting in the Norway battle. Floki tells him about the killing of King Sweyn's sister during an English raid, and that Sweyn seeks revenge, meaning a great war is coming. The Vikings will ally with Denmark to invade England in the coming spring. Their leader Sigvaldi has ordered gathering the entire fleet, including deserters like Thors, who disappeared 15 years ago. This is Thor's chance to return to battle with honor, and in return, Sigvaldi will pardon him. Floki leaves after Thors agrees. Floki leaves after Thors agrees, and that means there is a warship under their command. Before leaving, Floki tells the people of Iceland that whoever wants to volunteer to fight under their leader Thors can join the Vikings in Jomsborg. Then we learn that Thors faked his death in his last war because he believed that killing people was wrong, and that the ruler of Jomsborg does not tolerate such actions easily. After that, we see the men of the village preparing for battle, happy with the war equipment, while Thorfinn wished he could go with them, but he is too young. So Thorfinn returns home and searches through his father's belongings until he finds a small dagger. At that moment, his father catches him holding it and asks him, "Who do you want to fight with that dagger?" Thorfinn replies, "I'll kill my enemy." Thors asks, "Who is your enemy?" He says, "Halfdan." Then Thors responds with his famous line, "Listen, my son, you have no enemies. You don't have any enemies. No one has enemies at all. Neither you nor I. No one deserves to have their life taken from them." But Thorfinn disagrees and says, "You're lying to me. I'm not a child anymore. And you're going to war tomorrow, you liar." Then he runs out of the house. Thors tells Helga to take care of him. The scene shifts to the Faroe Islands, specifically a place where Viking soldiers are camped. We see Floki talking to the commander Askeladd, who seems annoyed and feels he's wasting his time. Floki offers him 5 pounds of gold as compensation for waiting, plus Thor's ship and everything on it as spoils. Then he gives him the real order: after finishing what he's assigned, he must kill Thors and get rid of him forever. But Askeladd asks for 10 pounds instead of 5 to do the job. Floki hesitates. Suddenly, a spear is thrown and hits the wall beside him. Askeladd asks who did that, and a soldier claims it was an accident. Then Askeladd continues talking and asks Floki, "If you want to kill Thors, why didn't you kill him in his village? Why send me?" The scene cuts back, and we see that Floki leaves, but before exiting, he pulls the spear from the curtain and finds it had pierced one of his own soldiers, killing him. It seems Floki intended to kill Askeladd, but Askeladd was smarter and had anticipated it. Later, Askeladd meets the soldier who helped him and tells him he almost killed Floki, praising his throw. Then the scene shifts to Leif, who tells a village girl that they are not really going to fight, but will take the ship to a safe island and return. He asks her to keep it secret. We move to Thor's ship sailing through the sea, and we discover that Thorfinn had secretly hidden inside the ship's storage room. His father finds him by accident and is surprised that his son insists on joining the war despite being too young. Thor scolds him for sneaking aboard. Hours pass, the sea calms, and night falls over the Norwegian Sea. We see Ari, who is steering the ship, becoming sleepy. Thors warns him not to stare at the sea waves at night because they might pull him in. Then Thors asks Ari if he loves Ylva. Ari says yes and that he wants to propose to her. Thors then talks about the battlefield and reveals that Ylva is his eldest daughter, born when he was part of the Vikings, when he was known as the Troll of Jom. At that time, he didn't care much about her and was frustrated because Helga hadn't given him a son yet. He was so indifferent that he didn't even name her at birth, until Helga insisted. So he named her Ylva after his mother. From that moment, his perspective on fighting began to change. His heart softened, and for the first time, he felt afraid of dying, because he would leave behind a child who hadn't seen life yet. That was the reason he decided to flee the Jom's Vikings and fake his death. Morning comes, and Leif suggests they dock at an island to rest and trade. But as they approach a narrow passage between two mountains, Thor senses something is wrong when small rocks fall into the sea. He realizes it's an ambush. He tells Leif they must turn back, but it's too late, the path behind them is blocked. Suddenly, two pirate ships led by Askeladd appear. Thors also notices archers positioned on top of the mountains, ready to fire at any moment. Thors orders his men to protect their heads from arrows and leave the pirates to him. Then Thors jumps onto the enemy ship and fights skillfully using only his hands, knocking pirates down without using his sword or killing anyone. Before that, he had given Thorfinn a dagger to defend himself. We also see Bjorn, Askeladd's right-hand man, eating berserker mushrooms, which make him extremely aggressive. Thors defeats everyone on the first ship alone. Bjorn, under the effect of the mushrooms, attacks wildly, but Thors uses his strength against him, strikes him in the eye, and knocks him down. After that, Thors tells Askeladd to retreat with his men, but Askeladd mocks him. So Thors challenges him to a duel. If Askeladd wins, Thors will do whatever he wants. But if Thors wins, Askeladd must leave with his men. Askeladd agrees, and the legendary battle begins. For the first time in 15 years, Thors uses his sword. Askeladd cuts the sail rope as a tactic and attacks Thors, landing a hit, but it's only a shallow wound. Thors counters with powerful strikes that break Askeladd's sword. At that moment, it seems Askeladd has the chance to kill him, but Thors disarms him and wins the duel. However, Askeladd refuses to surrender and instead jumps to Thor's ship, takes Thorfinn hostage, and threatens to kill him. Because of this, Thors throws his sword into the sea. Then the archers fire around 30 arrows, piercing Thor's body while he remains standing. Before dying, Thors tells Bjorn, "I sacrificed myself for my son, stay away from him." The pirates take Thor's ship as spoils. Thorfinn cries while holding his father, who dies standing. At night, Thorfinn swears revenge against Askeladd and all his men. When the sun rises, the pirates' ship approaches a large island full of people. Thorfinn is very thirsty, but there is only salty water, so he refuses to drink it until they reach land. Once they arrive, he escapes and runs until he finds a river with fresh water in the forest. While he is drinking, Askeladd's men attack the village on the island, seize it, burn it, and kill all its inhabitants. After finishing, the pirates sleep in the village. During the night, Thorfinn sneaks in, steals a sword, and searches for Askeladd to kill him. He finds him and enters his room, raises the sword, but at the last moment, he hesitates, backs away, and runs into the forest. The reason for that will be revealed later. The next morning, while the pirates are eating, Thorfinn challenges Askeladd to a duel. Askeladd tells him he should have killed him when he had the chance. But Thorfinn replies, "I'm not a coward to kill you in your sleep. I'll defeat you in a duel." Askeladd easily blocks all his attacks and kicks him hard in the stomach, making him vomit. Then he tells him, a true warrior controls his sword, not the other way around. At night, Thorfinn goes back to the forest to hunt, but he fails and returns to eat leftovers from the pirates. Then he trains with his dagger all night, trying to become stronger. Later, Bjorn meets him in the forest and is surprised he's still alive. Thorfinn insults him and tries to attack, but Bjorn easily throws him aside like he's nothing. After training, Thorfinn challenges Askeladd again, but once more, he loses easily. Askeladd tells him he's weak and that if he wants a real duel, he must achieve something meaningful on the battlefield. Thorfinn asks him if he will keep his promise, and Askeladd replies, "That's a warrior's promise." The scene shifts back to Iceland, where Leif apologizes to Helga for losing her husband. Ylva tries to hide her sadness, working all day weaving, until she finally breaks down crying in her mother's arms. From episode 6 onward, Thorfinn begins traveling with Askeladd, fighting in many bloody battles, killing many enemies, and gaining experience, becoming stronger over time. 6 years pass. One day in eastern England, Thorfinn kills a soldier but gets hit by an arrow and loses consciousness. A woman and her daughter find him and take care of him. They ask his name and age, but he refuses to speak. Later, an English soldier comes asking if they've seen a Viking boy. The woman lies and says no. At night, Thorfinn tells them to run away, then sets the house on fire to signal Askeladd's men. The woman and her daughter don't understand him, even though he spoke in their language. They watch him kill approaching soldiers and begin to cry. At that moment, Thorfinn feels guilt and briefly remembers his past and his family. Later, in the year 1020, Norway temporarily halts the invasion of England. Askeladd thinks about how to make money during this time, so he takes his men to France. There, they see a group of Frankish soldiers being defeated. Thorfinn suggests helping them capture a castle in exchange for half its treasure. Askeladd agrees, but only if Thorfinn brings him the head of an enemy commander. Thorfinn infiltrates the castle during battle, kills soldiers, and manages to cut off the commander's head, but it falls into the river. He jumps after it and retrieves it. Meanwhile, Askeladd and his men capture the castle and kill everyone inside, but he betrays the agreement and takes all the treasure. Thorfinn returns with the head and demands his duel, but Askeladd ignores him and decides to rest instead. After some days, they return to Denmark and settle in a village. The villagers welcome Askeladd, and he meets the local lord named Gorm, who loves money and demands payment for food and lodging. Askeladd notices a new servant girl named Hord, who was once from a noble family in Norway but was enslaved after her family was killed. Later, Thorfinn challenges Askeladd again, but loses once more. At night, Hord approaches Thorfinn and offers him food. He threatens her at first, then tells her about Vinland, a peaceful land without war or slavery. She doesn't believe him. 10 months pass. The Vikings return to invade England again under King Sweyn. They reach London but cannot advance due to heavy defences led by Thorkell. Floki asks Thorkell to support England, but he refuses because he finds no honour in fighting weaker enemies. Then begins the famous Battle of London Bridge. Askeladd orders Thorfinn to kill Thorkell in exchange for a duel. Thorfinn agrees and jumps into battle. A fierce fight breaks out between Thorfinn and Thorkell. Thorfinn manages to injure Thorkell's arm, but Thorkell grabs him and throws him around violently. Eventually, Thorfinn cuts off 2 of Thorkell's fingers and escapes by jumping into the sea. Thorkell laughs and says he enjoyed the fight. Thorfinn returns badly injured. Meanwhile, King Sweyn decides to split his army, leaving 4,000 soldiers under his son Canute to hold London. However, Thorkell attacks them and defeats them, capturing Canute. A surviving soldier goes to Askeladd asking for help, but Askeladd kills him and decides instead to capture Canute and sell him to the highest bidder. Then Askeladd and his men move out to face Thorkel. Then Askeladd and his men begin moving to confront Thorkel, who was marching calmly with his soldiers and the prisoners. Askeladd